Again, welcome to the Mommy Me Time series. This project, if you listen to episode 279 of the Tea Time with Bree podcast, this project, I explained there has been in the works, and it's going to be more than just a live series. It's going to be more than just episodes on the podcast geared towards moms and self-care. It's also going to be retreats, online retreats. Who knows, maybe an in-person retreat sometime, online summits, all that sort of stuff. And so I'm so excited to kind of kickstart that for at least the next 3 months, really focusing, well, it's probably longer than that, but at least the next 3 months focusing on mommy me time. And so I'm going to define what mommy me time it means. I'm going to talk about what self-care means tonight and really help you to create rituals for yourself. And it's interesting, I was reading a book today by, I forget his name, Greg McCowan. He wrote the book Essentialism. I'm reading Effortless by him, a recommendation of a friend, a mentor in my life. And I'm in the chapter of, I think it's like, what if it could be, I just finished what if it could be fun? What if it could be easy? Basically the idea that we are conditioned to believe that anything is, well, that's worth it is extremely hard and takes tons of effort. When in actuality, yes, it does take effort, but when you allow it to be easy, fun, and so many other things as I'll learn in the book, it can actually not be as hard as we make it out to be. And in this chapter, he talked about the difference between habits and rituals. And I'm going to come up with my own definitions, but I just love how he broke it down, and also why I talk often a lot about healthy habits here with my community, and why I chose rituals, and specifically self-care rituals, and how that's going to ring differently in your mind than when you think about habits. Okay. So let's get started. So again, what is this Mommy Me Time project? So I'm going on a mission to learn how to really help moms of different ages, of different situations, moms with kids in different ages, learn what it means to prioritize self-care. Okay. What does it mean to prioritize self-care? What does it mean to them? What does it actually look like in their everyday life? Okay. By the way, if you're on live or watching the replay, please let me know below, and please let me know your takeaways below, and I'll check it after I'm done. Okay, so, I've been working with women in the health coaching or life coaching, business coaching capacity for nearly 8 years now, which is like, whoa, how did all that happen? And what's interesting is that I've had countless clients say to me that, taking time to do this coaching session, or taking time to drink my water, or taking time to read a book, or taking time to just work, like take a course that they've been wanting to take to grow themselves professionally and personally, is self-care. And it really opened up my mind to what that means. Because what do you think of? I would love for you to drop in the comments down. What do you think of when you hear the word self-care? It's probably getting your nails done, which it can be, getting a massage, or just getting your hair done, like these things that do care for us, help us feel and I'm a firm believer, if you know what I do, like I'm a firm believer in how you look makes you feel a certain way, okay? And how you dress and all that sort of stuff. But I also think that it challenged me to expand my definition, but also stirred something within me to go on a journey of asking as many moms as possible, because a lot of the women that I work with are moms. Didn't realize it, but I did realize it, but putting 2 and 2 together, a lot of them tended to be like, you know what, it's fine. It's time to take care of myself. It's time to prioritize my own well-being. And so they've challenged my definition of self-care, but I also want to hear from them, hear from you, hear from other moms of, again, different situations, different scenarios, kids in different spaces, working, stay at home, all these things, taking care of a loved one or a parent. What does self-care mean to you? Because what it means to you is a definition you need to run after. That is what you create rituals around. That is what you start to prioritize. That's what you make a priority in your schedule, the same way you would make your kid's dentist appointment, going to get your monthly checkup. Like, it is just as important, if not more important. We know conceptually that we cannot serve from an empty cup, yet we do it time and time again. We tell ourselves that we need to, we have to, that, if we don't do it, no one else will. Maybe, but it's okay if it doesn't always get done, right? But what we need to model to our kids is that it is perfectly okay and it's necessary to prioritize yourself. especially our kids, we spend all the time, like, it comes to a point, like, I had a one mom tell me, I love her, she's just, it's her personality, but she said, okay, I am doing my best to prepare my kids for when they leave. That's what I'm doing these 18 years of life. Like, I'm just preparing my kids to leave me. And what she really meant is that I want to, when my kids no longer live under my roof, or I'm no longer like their guardian or whatever, that they can live as a not productive human being, but just like exist in the world, take care of themselves, and make good choices or whatever, right? So, and I think, okay, great. We want to make them self-sufficient. We teach our kids how to do the laundry so that they can know how to do laundry or iron their clothes, know how to brush their teeth. But some of the things that we don't realize is that we also need to model to them, not just for the reason of modeling them, but we also need to model them. What does it mean for us as moms, us as people who care and serve, to prioritize our well-being? What does that mean? That may mean, even though my kid says, mommy, I want another time, I want more playtime with you, I want to do this, I say, I love you, awesome. No, I'm going to go here and do my thing, and I'll come back and we'll have some time. You know what I mean? Like, okay, first of all, this mom guilt thing is real. Any moms out there like mom guilt? Right? But what I'm trying to say is that do not feel guilty about prioritizing your well-being. Do not feel guilty about going out with your friends. Do not feel guilty about it. Because if you feel guilty about it, that already shows to me that you already care, and you're probably doing more than enough to love on your kid and be with them, right? And so we need to start seeing that time, that self-care time, whatever it is, and we'll talk about what different things that it could mean for you and how to create rituals around it. We need to start seeing that is necessary. It is extremely necessary. It needs to be prioritized. And if we don't do that for an extended period of time, it's going to come back. It's going to come back for us, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to make sure I am. It's good. Okay, good. Just making sure my audio is good here. Okay. And so what does self-care mean to you? Again, I've heard moms say it differently, and I want to know, because again, I'm going on this project, and I'm going to share with you all the other ways I can serve you other than this live series. And I think self-care is looking at how can I prioritize my well-being. Not to say priority doesn't mean like I need to suddenly forget all the other responsibilities, other things I'm called to. No, how can I prioritize it to my best ability, my well-being in a few different areas? I think physical health, right? If your body's not functioning well, if your body's not going, nothing else is going to be able to. Try it, moms. If your kids aren't sleeping well, guess what? You're going to be crankier emotionally and mentally. You're physically be exhausted, and then everything else is going to feel hard. Raise your hands if you are there with me. That's toddler moms, maybe even older kids moms. You might probably not sleeping too, like they're teenagers. Help me. And so physical, mental, especially mental health as a mom, we go through so many thoughts. Everyone thinks about 60 to 80 thoughts a day. And most of ours are centered around like, I'm not doing enough. They're centered on shame or guilt or worry. And it's like, we need to manage I was just listening to a book because I'm trying to get back into really reading consistently by Dr. Carolyn Leaf, called Clean Up Your Mental Mess. Just like she's like, I mean, she's a neuropsychologist, a bunch of different big things. And basically at the end of the day, it's like we need to manage our mind as we manage our other well-being, because literally it all starts in your mind. Your beliefs drive your thoughts, your words, your emotions, your actions, and your reality. So if you have these underlying beliefs that spending time on yourself isn't okay, spending money on yourself isn't okay, guess what? It's not going to change, because you need to first change here. So managing your mind and taking care of yourself mentally. Emotionally, right? We all feel emotions. Women are known, quote unquote, as emotional. We're all emotional human beings. Anger is an emotion. Apathy is an emotion. Sadness is an emotion. Whatever. Grief is an emotion. And it just so happens that sometimes, not all women, but sometimes women they allow themselves to feel it. So we're known as emotional. They're gifts. Your emotions are a gift that are indicators to you that something's up, and you just need to process it. And if you don't process your emotions will process you. Like they will find some way to get themselves out there and to be dealt with. For me, for a long period of my life, it was emotional eating. And now, even as a mom, I'm looking like, oh my goodness, I'm not necessarily emotionally eating, like eating a bunch of like refined food, sugar, all of that when I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed. It's more like I'm mindlessly eating. Like half the times when I sit down to eat with my kids, I'm like trying to make sure they're like not throwing the food on the floor and like all this stuff. And then even when I have a chance to eat, it feels like feels hard to get settled. And so because of that, I don't really enjoy my food as much. Am I even like sure I'm full or not? Because I'm not allowing my body to digest it. And I find I'm eating like all my kids' scraps. It's like, what am I doing? And that's still that could be considered emotionally eating, mindless eating, whatever. I'm not like there are emotions there are feelings there that I'm just not processing, like being overwhelmed, whatever, right? And also spiritually, I'm gonna just say you don't have to believe what I believe. I believe in one true God, and he created me to worship him and love him. And if that relationship isn't right for me, nothing else is right, right? And those 4 areas, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, I looked at a lot when I was starting my journey of self-care before kids, of really holistic, intentional, small steps. But then I started to see that it's expanded. It's more than that. And I started to see that our relationships matter just as much, if not more. Our relationships are part of what we call primary food. They are primarily nourish us. What we eat is secondary. When I think the pandemic showed us so many of us that like we're not meant to actually be isolated and alone. And although virtual connection is great, hearing someone's voice is great, there's something about being with someone in person. It's because it's how we were meant to be. Then those nonverbal cues, being able to touch, hug, all those things. And so we're meant to be in community and in relationships, whatever relationships those are. And then, financially, like, guys, just the way that the world is, money is an exchange of value, right? Like you buy something, you get a value in return. And that's the way that it works. Before it was bartering, right? But now we like exchange money for something else. And because the way of the world is, it's like, it can be hard to figure out, how do I manage my money well? How do I save well? How do I spend well? How do I give well? How do I receive well? And so creating a healthy relationship with money and money management is also important, because when you are financially stressed, it does leak into every other area of your life. And then lastly, I call this vocationally. Vocation, I think is Latin for calling. And I don't believe your calling is always your career. I don't believe your occupation always lines up with like your particular calling, but we could use one or both of them, right? But doing something, like, we're all meant to work. By the way, I think in Genesis, it talks about we all created, like, worked for work. Now, that work doesn't always mean we get quote unquote paid, but like being a stay-at-home mom is work. If anyone tells you otherwise, tell them to do it for a day. It's work, it's a job, it's a full-time job. Being a work from home mom, double full-time job. And just whatever it may be, being a full-time ministry, or just being a full-time volunteer, like, work. And I truly believe, like, not everyone can do the job or career or work they feel and get paid for it, I should say, that they like feel like as their calling. But I think there's some work we are all meant to do in this world. Again, it could be writing a book. It doesn't have to be a paid thing, but there's work that we're meant to do that will bring us more purpose, life, joy, and impact. Because if we're all made it to be in a relationship, that means we all need each other. We all need each other to influence each other in a positive way. And so many of us ignore this, or just are so content with, aren't content, but don't know how, or don't have the courage to break free, or find that extra thing, find that thing, that work that brings them life and joy. Okay. So those 7 areas, I feel like self-care is really looking at, how can I be well and be the best version of myself, and take care of myself and allow others to take care of me in mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, relationally, vocationally. And I have something that I created years ago. I called it the Flourishing Life Inventory. I might rename it to the Self-Care Inventory now, but it looks at these 7 areas, and it's basically a diagnostic, right? And if you want access to this inventory, let me know. It's actually in my resource library I have, but it's a diagnostic of really just like, the connect the dots you did as a kid, like putting dots, like closer to the circle means you're not closer to the center means you're not as happy, further away means you are content or nourished, satisfied in that area. And what you'll find, it's like this, it's like, ideally we want a big circle, but that's not life, right? And it's just a visual way to see like, oh, wow, I'm not feeling satisfied vocationally, but I'm feeling kind of really satisfied physically. And it's not that you stop doing what's working physically, you press in even more, but you also pay attention to the vocationally or relationally part, if that makes sense. So that's a great diagnostic. But for the purposes of right now, I really want you to pick 1 to 3 areas and figuring out what does self-care mean to you? Let's just say emotionally. What does self-care mean to you physically? What does self-care mean to you relationally? It could mean emotionally, it means having time each week to speak with a loved one or someone about what's going on in my life, or speak with a therapist, like to unload that, to be, and not just speak and unload it, but be poured back into, be challenged, be given questions, having space to unload it. It could mean journaling around that every day, once a week. Physically, it could mean like, no, I need to prioritize movement. I feel and look my best. So moving 10 minutes a day. That's what I'm going to do. Vocationally, or it could mean like, listen, I have been wanting to put my things that I keep sewing on Etsy and have other people enjoy this. I got so much in my closet. I want to sell them, get a little extra money to do this other dream, but also bless people with it, right? Business is about blessing. It's about giving, receiving all over and over and over again. Like when someone pays to work with me or pay and joins my team, and not necessarily quote unquote pay me, but like they're giving me something and I'm giving them something, and we're both just giving and receiving. And I believe that's where blessings come. And I believe that that's the purpose of anything we do, is to bless and is to give and receive and bless each other. Okay. And there are people out there who might need your blessings. So don't discount yourself. Right. So what does self-care? Pick 3 areas. Again, I said mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, relationally, vocationally, and maybe that was all 7. Pick 1 to 3 and just really drop in the comments. Think about it, write it down, whatever you need to do, come back, email me, whatever, and tell me, what are those 3 things for you? Like, what does self-care mean to you? No hindrances, no, like, dream big here. Like for you, if like spending 30 minutes walking each day alone is self-care and hits multiple areas, by the way, do it. That's what's going to hit multiple areas. And so just write it out, right? Just dream big here. And then we're going to talk about like, okay, well, what's realistic, at least for right now in this season? Because I think what happens is someone's like, you know what, I want to do this, going to the gym for an hour a day, or like I'm saving $500 a month towards this. And we can't quite do that amount yet. And so we just think, oh, I don't have time for it at all. And the lie of our time, and the lie that I have to consistently tell myself that is not true, is that small bits don't matter. But that is a lie. Every small step you take, even if it's not every day, every small step you take moves you closer and closer to your version of success, to your version of self-care. So many people, we got to be careful, guys, because so many of us are looking at social media or things where people we see their results. We see years, months, hours, minutes, seconds of all the intentionality it took for them to reach their goal. And we instantly look at ourselves and feel bad about it. And I actually was challenged. I was praying yesterday, and I just felt like the Lord was saying, every single time you look at someone's success or see them say this, this, and this, and in an area that you want to be successful in, rather than like making it like, oh, that's them, I can never be it, choose to be like, oh my gosh, what a blessing for them. Celebrate them, because it means they're blessing someone else. And the people you're meant to bless, or the people, the thing that you want, it's coming. Don't worry, there's abundance here, because we're all operating out of scarcity. Half the time we all believe that we're not enough, or that we're not doing enough, or that there's not enough of something. But there's abundance here. And so I just think specifically when it comes to moms, we're looking at other moms and we have envy, we compare, And we constantly are thinking like, how do they have it all together? But let me tell you, go talk to that mom, and she's gonna wonder the exact same thing about you or someone else. And that's just that doesn't I don't want to normalize it and say like that's okay, but it happens. But I'm saying we got to challenge ourselves. We're all doing our best here, and rather than comparing ourselves to each other, and actually often what we do is withhold love or we pull back from each other. We end up, well, what we really need is to push into each other and support each other and just help each other get through it and celebrate. Like if your kid is not talking yet, and they should be quote unquote talking about it, and so your best friend's kid who is the same age or close to it is, it's like, don't, I mean, yes, there could be some developmental things, but don't like sit there and compare. And it's just so common. I mean, I have a 3-year-old and 1-year-old, but it's so common in those like first year or 2-3 years, and you're just like, my kid isn't there yet. Is it something I'm doing? And all this to say, I particularly think when it comes to health and body stuff, we look at people who the results, and we want it. But guys, you don't know what it took to get there. It took a lot of intentionality and small steps. It's not like suddenly they did one thing. Actually, I believe anything you see, and this is what I often talk about for physical health, there's just like how self-care, there's these 7 areas for a flourishing life and self-care and well-being. Same thing with physical health. Like how your body has all these different systems: cardiovascular, excretion, digestive, all that, skeleton, like, all that skeletal system. They all work together, and if one, and you have to take care of all. The same thing, it's like if you want to lose weight, maintain weight, let's just say that's it, build muscle, your nutrition matters, but so does your stress management. So does your sleep. So does your exercise. And that may feel overwhelming, but I think that's very freeing. Excuse me. I think it's freeing because it shows you that there's not a trick. Actually, the trick is what we call the slight edge by Jeff Olson. The trick is small steps daily. And it's learning. I did a reel about this today, about from a business point of view. I feel like what's kept me going all these years and having success is, at least my version of success, and I might not be someone else's, is planning. And one of the 5 steps of planning I mentioned is the process of celebrating. Because if I'm always just looking at the end result, it's going to be miserable getting there. If we just wait, if an Olympian just waited until he won a gold medal at the Olympics, his last, whatever, 15, 20 years of training for that, or her last 15, 20 years, is going to be miserable. But it's those small races they win. It's those small PRs in training that really make it worth it. And anything you want, the journey is actually what you need to start craving for and planning for. And that journey for us when it comes to self-care is rituals, right? So let's talk about that. So rituals versus habits. So habits basically are kind of what they are. It's like a repeated thing you do over time, kind of unconsciously. And you do want to get to the point where you're waking up and you're like, you drink some water or whatever the healthy habits you are, like you get off of work and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go to the gym. It's just a habit, just like driving home, like knowing the path to drive home. It's something you can do, gets to a point you're doing unconsciously, or unconsciously. Like you're just not unconsciously, subconsciously, without having to think about it. I mean, it's intentional. You are thinking about it, but like it is more automatic. Now, rituals, I think that very word just feels different. I think when people view habits, they view it as something that I have to do. Rituals are like, oh, it's something I get to do. You can use whatever word you want. It's actually the same thing at the end of the day. But I think when it comes to self-care rituals, I think it makes it feel more like a treat, but it's every day. So a ritual is something that adds soul into something, adds meaning, brings that why into it. And again, when you define what those self-care, what does it mean to have self-care in those 3 areas, then it's trying to figure out what is it like to make a doable ritual around it. And what I mean by doable is, there are certain things I do in business, for example, and I try to do every day, or at least 5 days, 6 days a week. And when my 1-year-old was like sleeping more, not as active, I could do a lot more of it because he napped more and he wasn't running around. But now I'm like, I cannot keep up that. And I was just feeling bad about I was like, am I moving forward? Am I taking any steps? And then I was just talking to my mentor the other day, and she's just like, cut it down because it's about consistency. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I preach. Yeah, I need this reminder too. And so now it's a ritual to do these certain things by this certain time every day. And it's funner. And I don't feel like this weight on my shoulder. And, now with exercise, it's not, oh, I have to. It's like, no, I get to. And it's a ritual for me to do it. Certain days a week, I go do this mom fitness class. Certain days a week, I work out at home at a certain time. And it's a ritual now. But it took a while to get there, right? Drinking water, drinking all those things, like budget meetings with my husband, which we're still working on. But like I was reading how in this very book, Effortless, how him and his wife, he just play like fun music to it and like put on some like had chocolate covered almonds. And I was like, that's a different sort of money meeting. I want that money meeting. I'm like, why don't we do that? Versus like, okay, kids are asleep. Let's do this as quick as we can. They made it like a date and they're talking about money. I'm like, oh, what a way to talk about money. And so I just think rituals, it adds more soul, more meaning, more why. And when you think about it, it's something you can look forward to. But again, back to that, as a mom, now depending on what stage of motherhood you're in, if your kids are out the house, if you have young kids, if your kids are teenagers, just your time and your energy may look different. So doable is really like, what do you think you can do and do it consistently, meaning every day or every other day? Like, for example, like exercise, when I started exercising consistently after having my son, my second kid, it was like, all right, 10 minutes. 10 minutes a day of movement, about 5 to 6 times a week. If I could do that, solid. And I noticed I used to do push-ups, not for my knees before my kids. I went from knees to not for my knees, stronger in that sense. And then postpartum, having to slowly rehab my core, I went back to my knees, whatever. And now I can do some push-ups without going for my knees because I'm stronger. But you want to know what? It's because I was just consistent in doing all the exercises that led to that strength. All right. And so for you, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I want you to really think about, what does consistency and doability realistically look like for you in those areas of self-care? And how can you make it exciting? How can you make it simple, easy, fun, and almost effortless? And something that is more of a ritual you look forward to. So, if you're thinking about creating a sleep routine, it could be like, okay, I'm going to drink my favorite cup of tea. I'm going to light some candles. I'm going to take a bath. Like, so unwinding doesn't feel like, oh, I have to get ready to sleep. I have so much to do. Something you look forward to, something you enjoy. What if it's financially, like, how can you not feel that like budgeting or not spending is like depriving you? How can it be exciting? Can it be like, goodness, every time I save $5, I don't know, you could spend $1 doing something else, or like after you save a certain amount, you get your favorite cup of something or whatever, right? Like, I just think that celebration and reward part, even in those small steps, is huge. I mean, think about your kids. I know, right? Again, I have young kids where what we want to do is when they do something like say that their ABCs or identify the right colors, we affirm them. Even when they're starting to say a word and they can't quite say it yet, we're like, great job. Why are you saying great job to yourself? Stop waiting for your parents or someone else. You could say it to yourself. You told your kid, you taught your kid how to do it. It's time you taught yourself, right? We're constantly waiting for external affirmation. We're not going to get it. Because one minute someone's going to say great job. Next minute, they may say something else. So how do you start celebrating yourself and give yourself unending permission to do so? Okay. And so to summarize what we covered today to kick off this series is really defining what self-care means and those 7 different areas that you can want to be well in and be the best version of yourself and grow. And picking 1 to 3 of those areas and really just dreaming big, like no caps on it, no limits. What does self-care mean to you in those areas? And then we talked about rituals. How do we make self-care more of like a ritual that brings us life, that's connected to a deeper why, that is fun? And how do we make it doable, right? Really make it something that we consistently do in whatever season of motherhood we're in. That we're still going to have to prioritize it. You're still going to have to put it in your calendar. You might need to get up early. You might need to do it at bed. You might need to get a sitter to do it. I don't know. But until you can like really identify what it is, how you want to do it, and how it can be doable, you can't really know where to put it yet, right? So once you identify that, know where to put it, the challenge for you here is to realize, okay, then what support do I need to make sure that I do it? What accountability do I need? What childcare do I need? And so for me, I have made it a priority in my life, in my business, at least it's easy for me to get self-care. I mean, it's easy for me to get support and accountability. Not easy, meaning that's just something that I know I need. So I'm like, I have it in multiple areas of life. But I'm learning as motherhood, it's just as important. I'm not meant to raise my kids alone. I'm not meant to just do it alone. We're meant to support each other in that. It takes a village, right? And even though I'm not close to family, like a lot of the family that I just living in proximity, that doesn't mean I can't get support elsewhere, right? And so moms, like, what is it for you? Like, what support do you need? That's just as important, because you can make all the plans to create self-care in all these different areas of your life, but yet if you don't have the support, the accountability, and the ability to do that, it will not happen. So you need to be just as vigilant and planning that as you're planning this. All right. And one of the things I think should be on your thing of support and accountability are this series, right? We're going to go through two more, the next 2 Tuesdays in October, we're going to be here. And then the first Tuesday in November, because I'm taking Halloween off because it's Halloween, but also it's my husband's birthday. So celebrating them. And then also on the podcast, I'll be putting the replays up on this of these up for the month, but starting kind of, I might twinkle in some interviews, but at least starting in November, we're going to start having more interviews and guest experts that are focused on supporting moms in multiple areas. But then also, this is something that I'm working on the sign up page. So if you are interested, you got to just let me know and say waitlist below, and I'll add you when I get it. But I am creating, I've done 6 summits before. And I am creating one for moms, for toddler moms, called the Mommy Me Time Retreat, November 11th. And it is a live summit, live retreat. I intentionally did that. I've never done one live like this, but I intentionally did it because I just think, what better way for moms to spend me time than to do it live? And it's on a Saturday, so you can get childcare, it's going to be amazing. We're going to have different speakers coming in and sharing about, I think all these speakers could really, of the things that they're going to share, the ones so far, could apply to any mom, right? But I actually am asking them specifically at least one question of like, how do you think toddler moms can do this? So you're welcome to sign up if you're not a toddler mom, but if you are a toddler mom, you better be there. And if you know a toddler mom, send this to her. Right? This is where we start blessing others, right? Because this is going to be a powerful space to not only learn things, but because it's live, to figure out how to apply them. And some of the speakers with some of their, some of the experts with some of what they're focusing on, will actually do some stuff right there, then in the session. Okay. It's free. It's free. Of course you can, there'll be an option to buy lifetime access, which comes with some other bonuses, but it's free to attend live, right? And if you can't make all the sessions, a replay will be sent out for a limited time for those who didn't purchase, okay? So those are 3 ways that are free to be supported, right? This series here, the podcast, Tea Time with Bree podcast, the Mommy Me Time Retreat. And then I'm going to say this, like, I work with women in a health and business and life coaching capacity. It is a paid capacity, but it gives you that paid capacity support, right? And so I do have one-on-one spots. If you would love to just learn more about what it's like to work with me to prioritize self-care in multiple areas of your life, I would love to hop on a call. And then what we'll do on that call, I'll listen to you. I'll just hear where you're at, hear where you want to go. And then I'll share with you, is there something in particular that I offer that I think would be a great fit to help you in that area of self-care. So if it is financially and vocationally, maybe relationally, it might be working with me on my team in my lifestyle brand, or maybe it is working on that physical, emotional, mental work. So maybe it's like one of my health coaching programs, right? But we won't know unless you hop on. And again, it's a clarity call. So many have hopped on this call with me and they're like, I just have clarity as to actually what I am going through and what I need to work on. And then also they get clear on whether or not I'm a fit for them in the season of life they're in. Okay. So if that's you, if you want clarity around what self-care really means to you in the season and what you need to do and whether or not there's something that I offer that can support you, drop clarity below. Okay. So your action steps from this session is to one, I hope you took notes, but is to really define what self-care means to you in 3 areas of your life and what it means and what does it look like. And then ask yourself like, okay, well, how do I make that doable for this season? And then what support do I need? So 3 things. What does self-care mean to you in 1 to 3 areas of your life? What was the second thing? What does it mean to you in 1 to 3 areas of your life? And how do I make it doable? And then what support do I need? And then if you want to join us for the Mommy and Me Time Retreat on November 11th for toddler moms, drop waitlist below. And once I have the link to register, I will send it to you. And if you want to hop on a call with me, a complimentary clarity call to see if, where are you at, where you can get unstuck, and also if there's anything that I offer that could support you, drop clarity below. Okay. That's it for me. How much? 8:37, not bad. 37 minutes, but I was on fire today. I was like, I'm gonna talk about self-care. And so please, please, just let me know your takeaways below. And if you're listening at some other space, just email me, message me on Instagram or Facebook, and just let me know your takeaways. But as always, take action, right? Don't let this just be an inspirational, like take action in some way. Answer those 3 questions below. If you're, a toddler mom or know someone who is, drop waitlist below. Hop on a clarity call with me if you want to really figure out as a mother in whatever season of life you're in motherhood, how you can prioritize self-care. Okay. Drop clarity below. Okay. That's it. I'll see you next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern for our second part of Mommy Me Time series. And I'll talk to you all soon.